Right, so I'm going to direct my first question to you. I'm going to quote back some lyrics. Forgive the British accent. In 1988, on Radio Sucker, you said, "To make a record ain't hard. To make it mean something, that's a job." Did making this documentary, did it bring back the beauty to that 9 to 5?
I mean, to make a record, I mean, I guess what I was saying is that to make something important is what's difficult. And I think that this film is important. You know, I've been using that word in my life for a while. And, you know, we can make a record and you can have fun and enjoy yourself at a party and club and whatever, but will that change somebody's life? Not unless somebody gets pregnant that night. No, it's not. You know, so it's kind of like trying to do things that are important. If you take that word and say, you know, is this piece of work important? That's a good bar to set. And I think that this film is an important film because hip hop is not just the music, it's something that has totally changed the world. It's something that's totally revolutionized culture worldwide. It's opened up lines of communication between everybody. I mean, I wouldn't be sitting here if it wasn't for hip hop. So explaining it a little bit more in depth was important, and I think that's what the film does and set out to do, and it did.
Thank you. Gentlemen, Andy and Paul, could you explain to your audience your connectivity, how mired in music and the visual arts you are? Because many people would assume that, okay, so it's ice, and what we forget and what's been overlooked is that British money funded this documentary. Could you
Interesting. I think serendipity is probably the right word. You know, how we came to meet. My wife is an old friend of George, our executive producer, Ice's manager. And so, you know, but Andy and Andy's made lots and lots of music documentaries, and I've made lots as well about the creative process. And I guess our skill set fitted Ice's vision, you know, and it was just really good fortune. Also, I think the way that we in Britain just are in awe of rap. I think we really appreciate it. I think that the way we look at it is different to the way people in America look at it. I think we really value it, and I think maybe that's contributed to you know, how seriously we took every single person in the film. You know?
It was perfect. You know, my first idea to do the film, I was just going to shoot it with video cameras. I actually was going to send the cameras to each artist and have them do it themselves.
Like
you know?
those flips.
Yeah, I just was like, you know, it'll be something small, underground. And I talked to my manager, George, and George says, I might know the right people. And they made connections with Paul, and they were overwhelmed. It was like, you know, they hit me, it's brilliant. We're ready. And I've always, in my career, I work with people that are the most passionate. Sometimes not the most money, just the most passionate, because that's what's going to get you through hard times. And they definitely wanted to do this movie. There was no way I was going to tell them no. And every day when we shooting something like this is difficult. But even the boom operator was like, that's Rakim, you know, like everybody was like this, and no one got tired. And sometimes, you know, when you're doing a rap, something like this, you got to sit and wait on people. But it's okay. We're waiting on Snoop Dogg. It's okay.
But also, we should say at this point that obviously Ice is one of the stars of Law and Order, which means that he works every day as an actor.
I was moving targets.
So we would get someone's availability, and then Ice would say, well, yeah, but I've got to work, you know. So we would end up shooting at weekends, and then very often, I mean, so many of the scenes in the film, I can remember exactly what time it was. It'd be like 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, you know. Of course,
6 in the morning.
Yeah. We didn't actually do 6 in the morning, did we? But we did I did fall asleep on my feet once.
There's a lot of collaboration that went on in it. Like, I remember we were trying to figure out, because we didn't know how we were going to put this thing together. So I remember one time Paul was like, okay, Ice, we need you to go to Harlem and walk around in the night.
Just that.
And I'm like, what am I going to be doing? He says, you're just going to walk around. We need this. And I'm like, I'm like, okay, what? And he said, how are we going to do the voiceovers? The voiceovers that we knew we wanted to do to weave it together. We need something, so we just think if you just walk around, that'll be cool enough.
And we like the idea of, so what we did in the end was we thought, you know, because a lot of television documentaries have quite a preachy feel to them with lots and lots of voiceover. And obviously, there's so much content in this story that we just wanted to have. So really what we used was an idea of Ice's thoughts. So you see him walking.
Okay, inside
this
his
is
head.
inside his head, you know. It works as a device.
It works. But when you see the movie and I'm walking around, at the time, I don't know what the I'm walking around for.
What Ice doesn't know.
It looks dope when you see it. You're like, man, he's thinking right now.
What he doesn't know is that in our notes internally, these shots are called Ice Heroics.
It's true.
You'll see what we mean.
But you actually shot more than 100 hours worth of footage with your subjects. So clearly there's going to be a DVD release every year. Between now.
Yeah, rebooted.
Well, do you know what? On a serious point, we have 76 hours of interviews. But, you know, in the real DNA of this project, it's really important that it's not a commercial kind of bum rush thing. So, you know, we will not be flogging this one to death. You know, some people's interviews are incredible. Some people's are just good. Some people gave us 2 hours. Some people gave us 10 minutes or one line that ends up being one of the most important lines in the film. So you have to be very careful.
There's a scene in it. I mean, when you see Raekwon, that interview happened during a concert. Like the only time we could get him, and it wasn't even his concert. So we're running, and you know, of course, you know, every person I called, they said, "Not a problem, Ice. You got me. No problem. No problem. No problem." Now getting them, that was another thing. So now I'm like, "Where are you?" "Yo, I'm in Long Island. I'm at a concert." And so we would just rally up the troops, and we would roll in there. Now they're performing. This is happening like that. We got a full camera crew, and we're just trying to get an interview, which was supposed to be 15 questions, but might only got a couple of questions, and they're distracted, and everything is crazy, but it worked.
4 in the morning.
That leads me on to the next question I wanted to ask, because the art of rap in itself, the title in itself, it lends itself to a lot of self-perception. You know, are you going into the academic element? Are you going into the sociological, the tradition and the history of African American oratory? Or are you looking at, from the first wave, how this took hold and how that then subsequently influenced a subsequent generation? That first table meeting, how did you decide on the structure? Was it going to be chronological, regional?
No structure.
To be honest, what I remember from the first meeting was the three of us were having eggs Benedict, I think.
Yeah,
I remember.
right.
And we just met, and Icy said, "Well, okay, so if we were robbing a bank, I'm walking in with the gun, you're cracking the safe, and he's driving the getaway car."
For some reason,
And he pretty much like it was. That's what it was.
for some reason, I use crime analogies and everything.
Can I say that I think that, you know, we've talked about this a lot, but, you know, this is not the history of hip-hop, okay? And, you know, you'd have to have a sort of 75 DVD box set, I think, to do that. We don't use any archive. So we're not retelling stories. We ask people, I just wanted to ask people why they do it. How do you do it? And those are the themes. And, you know, I hope that what we've created is an unusual impression of an incredibly gifted group of people whose art has changed the world.
We really went to each person. I had 15 questions that we had on a page. And they were different questions. They were all questions I'd never been asked. And when I would call people, I'd call Nas, and somebody said, "Look, I got to interview you, but I'm not going to ask you about the money, the cars, the girls, the jewelry, the beef. No, just the craft, just things to do with that." And everybody was like, "Well, no one ever asks us those questions." And right now we live in a very how do you say it, gossip-based culture. And people are more concerned with who I'm sleeping with, what car I have, versus the craft. And artists don't get asked those questions anymore. And then you'll watch the video and you go, "How much did the video cost?" You know, people are just into numbers and BS, really. So by coming at these guys with these types of questions, you get answers that you don't normally hear. And that's the basis of it. Now, after we did all these questions, Paul and everybody sat back and said, "Well, we got how many hours?"
76 of interviews.
Now we got to make a movie out of this because they're just groups of interviews. And that's when it got difficult.
And obviously the premiere at Sundance in January, that had to go to time, so you had to cut this down. I remember watching Ice Loves Coco on the E! Channel, and you were struggling with, who am I going to cut out? I don't want to have to do it.
That was cutting from 3 to 2.
Reality.
We started out for like an 8-hour, like it was.
Well, we had 76.
Everyone-
So we, but it was an extraordinary process. The edit. I tell you, I think a really good example is Grandmaster Caz. Okay, arguably the greatest, arguably like the Robert Johnson of rap. No one really knows him, but he wrote Rapper's Delight. He's never been paid, and he gave us the most incredible access. He said, "Come to my home." Now his home is in the South Bronx, in the projects. It's a humble home. He could have said, "I'll meet me in an uptown restaurant, buy me a big dinner, give me some money." He gave us unlimited access. We went back again and again. He was incredible, and so we made him the star of the film.
It's so very important that you gave him that room to breathe, because in many respects he's been given a platform that has been denied him within history.
It's just a stone cold natural, though. It was easy.
Yeah, but the thing of it is when you're doing a film like this, Paul told me when we got started, he said the trick to this is access, and he says you have access.
That's it.
So we never called anybody we didn't know. I only went to my address book. If I couldn't make the phone call to the rapper himself and say, "Hey, I need you," I can't go by your manager. Your manager, we're going straight, because if you can get me on the phone and I say yes, I'm gonna be there.
So there were no managers, no PAs, no cars, no catering.
None of that.
None of the bull. It was
No
like,
makeup,
and
nothing.
very often it was like, so where you at? And Ice would say, okay, and Coco would then text us the address.
Yeah.
We'd all jump in the
It
car.
was like military, wasn't it?
Yeah, we'd be there.
I'm at a
Dre's
sneaker
house.
shop right now. I'm at Redman. I'm at a sneaker shop.
Get over
Come
it.
shoot me, and we just rolled on them. And you got to remember, when you're doing a movie like this, you're not paying people. Everybody's doing it for a favor. So it was just respect and love. And you're trying to get these people. These people are flying all over the world, and like we're trying to get Ludacris. We're trying to get Busta Rhymes after the New York premiere gave me the best compliment ever, because Bus is one of my best friends, and I'm trying to get him, and he's moving, and then finally I'm like, okay, we can shoot you. He's like, yo, I'm in Africa, dog, so like, at the end, when he saw the movie, he stood up and he looked to me and he said, Ice, I am buried in regret, that he wasn't able to make the tag, but, it was crazy. Then we got Dr. Dre, and the movie's called Something from Nothing. That means, I started rapping before anybody had ever bought a car rapping. So it was nothing. It wasn't like, oh, it's hot on the radio, and so therefore I want to try to do it and get rich. Nobody was paid. It wasn't, when I started doing it, people were like, you're gonna waste your time rapping? We're over here doing this, getting this money, and you're gonna waste your time? That's silly, But then at some point in the film, you'll see Dr. Dre's house, and you'll see something,
The king of the hill.
Yeah,
King
you'll
of the
see
hill.
what the result of this small seed turned out to be,
Now, Lord Jamar, he coined that term, upon which the title rests, but he also made a really valid point, something that I'd really like to discuss, given the sort of the global financial climate at the moment. He talked about the fact that cuts that went rife through the American school system actually just took away so many after-school projects,
all the
notably
arts.
music.
It took
No
away the
musical
arts.
instruments out of
Yeah.
schools, gone.
And I remember Chuck D has talked about the fact that the worst thing that happened to rap was R&B, Reagan and Bush. Could you expand on that?
It gave us a lot of ammo. It's kind of hard to diss Barack. We like Barack, so now we can't say the president. It's rough. It's time to throw the monkey wrench in there. But you needed it. When we had Bush, and it was great. Chuck titled him "Son of a Bush." We had 2 of them, but it's kind of like there is a lot of things going on. There are a lot of social issues. There are a lot of things that are happening today, and that's what I kind of would like to see the new artists kind of reflect into and get away from a lot of the pop stuff. It's like I'm aware, there's parties going on. That's great. I understand you made a few dollars, you bought a car, but the world can be changed with hip hop. And don't forget that part of it, because that's the part they put it where it is. Not the dance records, not the pop records. It's the hard stuff that got it to where it is. So, you know, if you're gonna make an album, okay, you know, tell the girls to shake their butts, do all that kind of cool, you know, but then talk about something. Because if you don't talk about something, I don't know who you are.